pleasure to moderate the first panel of the day, which is the EU's pledge to empowering equity. And I'm going to call on stage our great speakers for today, my partners in crime, Astrid Bartels, the head of unit in DG Grow. Then I have Shiva, the dean of the EIB Institute, and Hristo, the head of advisory services at the EIB. Please, I'm going to sit on the other side. No, just stay the same. I'm going to sit here. No problem. So, Astrid, we have been in this journey of InvestEU together for quite some time, and I remember very nice and actually lengthy discussions about the gender-smart criteria and investment initiatives under InvestEU. Can you tell us a bit more about the rationale for including this policy angle under InvestEU, and why focusing on the leadership and decision-making aspects, and why not focusing actually on the company's level, please?
Okay, good morning, everyone. And yeah, Syria, thanks for the great question. Well, but in order to answer this, I think we need to take a step back and look at what the current Commission under the President von der Leyen has committed to. The current Commission is fully committed to sustainability and towards supporting the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And one of those 17 sustainable development goals is actually goal number 5, which aims at achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. And as a consequence, the Commission launched a gender strategy 2020 to 2025. And under this strategy, a number of initiatives were undertaken, legislative proposals were made, and some of them have actually already been adopted. So, for instance, in 2021, the Commission proposed binding gender pay transparency measures, very important because this is usually kept under the lid. In March 2022, the European Commission adopted a new EU-wide proposal for a directive to combat violence against women and domestic violence. And in November 2022, so just a year ago, a major milestone was achieved because the directive on gender balance on corporate boards, which seeks to ensure equal decision-making process, was adopted after a 10-year negotiation process, wow. So something that has started earlier. But, we also know that there are problems with gender discrimination in the area of access to finance. And so already in the 2020 SME strategy that the Commission published, we highlighted that insufficient amounts of venture capital and private equity money flow to female founders and towards mixed teams. And in the SME strategy, we announced that we would seek to implement a gender-smart strategy. And this is exactly what we did. I mean, we've already heard about it. Together with you, we developed the gender-smart criteria, and we also determined the 25% target that we have. So for all of the EIF funds invested in, then 25% should at least adhere to these gender-smart criteria. And I think this amount should really be put in perspective because the mandate we've given the EIF under InvestEU, coupled with the resources from the EIB group, amounts to 5.5 billion euros. So this really is something that can kickstart activity. You already explained the gender-smart criteria, what it means, and we created these criteria in the strong belief that if more women are around the table when investment decisions are taken, then the investment decisions will be different, and more money will flow to female founders and mixed teams. And that's actually the reason why we focused at the fund level and not at the level of the portfolio companies. Yes, we had very vivid debates, let's put it like this. There were these ideas that we said, well, maybe we could empower the EIF to invest higher tickets in those funds that come with a strategy where they say, we will invest more in female founders. And we actually came to the conclusion we don't want to go down that road because what if a fund manager doesn't deliver? we don't have ways to penalize. The money is gone, we're 7-10 years out, and nothing has changed. So this is really why we were, at the level of the fund, not at the level of the portfolio company strategies. But there's another point I would like to point out, because when we negotiated this mandate with you, we really had to see how do we implement this in the most efficient way. InvestEU is really there to support Commission policy objectives, the European Green Deal, the digital decade, a lot of other different strategies. So it's squarely aimed at sectors and activities. And for us, gender really is a horizontal issue. That's why when we negotiated the mandate, what we really didn't want is sort of a pot of money set aside and say, you take this and you invest in women teams. Because for us, it really sounded, we're going to have the pity pot for the women. And in our view, that would have stigmatized even more. We really want to ensure that this is implemented horizontally, because we strongly believe that women are just as capable as men to raise funds that really support the strategies that we want. And, women can invest in semiconductors just as well as men can. So
thank you very much, Astrid. Thank you. And just to shed some light, perhaps, on the preliminary results that we have under InvestEU, we have heard Kirsten saying that it needed 25%, at least on the basis of preliminary outcome, it has been exceeded. I was looking at the statistics yesterday, and out of the funds that we supported out of InvestEU, we have roughly 37% that meet at least one of the gender criterion. Of course, we are still at the beginning of the journey. InvestEU is the long-term investment plan. The investment period will end in 2028, so we still have some way to go. And on top of that, building on Astrid's presentation, InvestEU is a thematic focused program. So gender comes as a cross-cutting objective on top of other thematic objectives. But so far we are of course happy with the results, but we take this with cautious. Now I'm going to move to Hristo, and we know actually that InvestEU, one of the big novelties is that there is this marriage between investment instruments and advisory and capacity building activities. And I'm also proud to say that the EIF and the EIB Advisory team are actually making the best out of this cooperation, and we are creating a lot of initiatives in several areas. And I would like to ask you a little bit more the rationale for supporting this non-financial component to channel it alongside the investment instruments, of which indeed this event is basically one of the outcomes. What does empowering equity means in the realm of the EIB Advisory?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Silvia, for the question. As you see behind our backs, we have 4 different logos here. And I'm just speaking now because you hear EIF, the Commission, EIB Group, EIB Bank. I would speak on behalf of the EIB Group, so allow me to do that. Advisory is concentrated within the bank of the group. And we have taken the topic of gender diversity extremely seriously. As from the banking point of view, we have put in place together the different measures internally to track and to incentivize investments on the lending side and on the investment side, on the EIF side, in order to promote gender diversity. On specifically advisory. And what advisory is basically it's the quintessence of being a promotional institution. It's transferring different knowledge, know-how, best practices, building capacity, providing technical assistance. What we've done 4 years ago, and actually I have to take credit a bit, but actually share it with Shiva here, Advisory kick-started the discussion with a study that was led by Shiva and the team at that time that looked at the shortcomings of funding for female entrepreneurs in Europe compared to the States and Israel. And this is the first attempt that Advisory did to basically corner the problem and define its basically boundaries. And from there on, over the years, we have worked our way, the way everybody works through complex problems. You take it as a whole, and then you break it down in different bits and pieces. So we started looking at what Advisory can do in order to promote gender diversity. And that includes things like technical assistance to municipalities, to building infrastructure that is inclusive in a way, to building capacity on municipality levels, on companies levels, on bank partners levels. And now we're going to the next stage where we actually move into implementing something a bit more detailed, but I will address that a bit later. So indeed, advisory has been essential in defining the problem, defining the different ways you can tackle it. And there were many people involved over the years, and Shiva here that is sitting together with me, and the team around her actually were essential in putting this topic in the center stage.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to go back to the point of leadership that we touched upon in the first question. And probably you know that Shiva has been recently awarded with a very prestigious award, the Global Inspiring Women Worldwide Award. So, yes. Shiva, what does it mean for you concretely nurturing leadership? And what the Institute is doing in this respect in terms of activities that might also complement the initiatives of the Commission, the IAF, and the EIB.
Thank you very much, and thanks for letting me blush here on stage. No, indeed. Let me maybe very quickly do a quick plug for WIN, the Women International Network, which actually gave that award, because it very much epitomizes what I think we are trying to establish, which is 26 years ago it was set up to promote the notion that we don't need to fix the system, we don't need to fix women, that the female qualities are absolutely, leadership qualities are absolutely essential to make our world a better place. And this was, initially apparently 26 years ago, and I can witness that, a rather controversial topic, and we have now seen that this is now absolutely common sense. So WIN is a great platform, and I highly recommend those of you who don't know it to check into their events and activities. Now, coming to your question, for me personally, it has been leadership, the way I see it, is very much to create an enabling environment for people to develop their potential. And I've seen that firsthand when you create that psychological safe space for people to experiment, to try, to potentially fail, but to let them do that in a way that helps them to actually also bring about change. And this conference to me is really, and credit to Sylvia and the team and the whole, everybody who's been involved, showing the snowballing effect, because we are talking of a village, a bigger community, little steps over the last 5 to 10 years, each one have actually led in a snowballing effect to exponential, impact. And therefore, with exponential, you can only imagine that very quickly you will get, to major impact. So I believe, therefore, when it comes to leadership, we need to ensure that we allow people, the pioneers among all of us, to call out what doesn't work and to really be part of the change you want to see and make it happen. So that's how, in a sort of my personal view on that. But coming maybe to my role in the Institute, I'm sure many of you have never heard of the EIB Institute, and that's absolutely fine. We are the part of the bank, of the group, I should say, that deals with all the philanthropic, academic activities, sort of the non-commercial. I always joke that the money you get from the Institute, you don't have to repay, and there's no interest. So, that's one way of looking at it. But there are two pillars of activity. One is thought leadership, and one is impact. And I will just very briefly tell you that what we hope to bring with our new strategy is actually, what is relevant maybe for this conversation, is to bring in a gender lens to pretty much everything we do in the Institute, and to give you a bit of a sense of what it meant to me to bring in a gender lens. A few books have really helped me to understand what we are talking about. Caroline Perez, Invisible Women. I see Carmen here who can totally relate to what I'm saying. It opened my eyes. If you haven't read the book, do read it. And I would say everybody should read it, because you will be shocked to know that maybe your mother, your wife, your daughter may be, killed in a car accident, not because of the accident, but because of the airbag. Why? Because the airbag was not tested on female bodies, and hence the airbag may kill them. The drugs may kill them because they were not tested in trials on women. I mean, it's it's absolutely mind-boggling, and it really shows that we are living in a world that was created, you know, in a way by men, for men, not designed for humans. And two other books, Who Cooked Adam Smith Dinner, and, which is the title, absolutely fascinating, because Adam Smith forgot that his mother cooked the dinner every night, not out of self-interest like the baker and so on, but because of the love. And it's absolutely a great read to see how fundamentally flawed our economic systems are on the care economy and everything that has flowed from Adam Smith, our founder of modern economics. Second book, which I highly recommend, is Mother of Invention, the same author, Catherine Marsal. These books, the reason I mention them, because they show how innovation over the years, the electric car 100 years ago, was not actually mass marketed. Mr. Ford, you know, mass market combustion car. Mrs. Ford was driving an electric car, but that was a car for women. And, you know, who would buy a car for women with a roof on top, you know, where you don't have to get out and do the crank to get the engine started? That's just, you know. So 500 billion CO2 emissions later, Elon Musk realizes maybe, you know, the electric car could be also, you know, for men and everyone. Can you imagine what has happened, you know, when we don't look at, when we have gender bias come in? So I stop here because I want to start quickly then mention what is maybe the question that was asked to me. The gender lens, therefore, so critical, and what we are trying to do, therefore, in initiatives like the a new one that we're setting up, a mentoring platform to help startup or researchers that are looking at startups, so under an executive in residence program, to bring in a gender lens, meaning not only having 50% women mentors, but help also researchers as they develop companies to ensure that, you know, our daughters, our mothers are, you know, are not killed in car accidents because of the safety features not having been tested. So bringing that is going to be critical across all our activities. And I stop here.
Thank you very much, Shiva. Very, very inspiring. Now, I know that we are already perhaps running out of time, so I'm going to ask very quick questions to all of you. And Astrid, you touch upon other type of initiatives that the EU is working on. Can you give us just a glimpse very quickly about what else is cooking on your side?
Okay, actually, to make it very short, I'm not going to get you the glimpse because there's a panel on it later on where my colleague Agnieszka Wojdier will go across the details. But I can confirm we see this really as a holistic approach. Yeah, absolutely. You know, the gender smart criteria we negotiated with you, it's a start. But it was clear to us from the outset we need the right framework conditions, we need to build the ecosystem, and we actually need data. Just to remind everyone, when we negotiated with you and we were going for the target and we were debating the number up and down, it would have been awesome to not just have a gut feeling, but real data on the makeup of the VC industry. It was, you know, we just couldn't get it. It wasn't available. So I'm actually very grateful to Helmut Kremais and his team here at the EIF and this liaison with Invest Europe about the study, which for the first time really sheds light on the issue. So yeah, just to say, we are very committed to the subject. We have a lot of things in the making, and I think we are up to a good start on a very long journey.
Thank you very much. And indeed, I can confirm that the snowballing effect that Shiva was talking about has been, of course, taken seriously in-house because several initiatives like the research, the communication, the data collection has been put in place also on our side. We know you mentioned a key word, which is holistic approach. And we know that a key element of the equation also to bolster, indeed, female participation also in the financing world is education. And Shiva, I know that the Institute is actually, this is one of the areas where the Institute is active. Can you tell us a bit more about what you are working on?
Yes, so to very briefly, and feel free to reach out to me later, but we are funding business-related research and also giving courses. EIB staff give courses in universities. We have a summer school, so we are very actively engaged across so helping develop the next generation of leaders. But I think, again, there the gender aspect is so critical. And what we are hoping to do in the future is when we have, when we basically do activities to bring in the gender lens, meaning to give the practitioner's perspective, the EIB's perspective from actually gender tagging, from having somebody like Carmen, Nitama, who's sitting here, looking at a project from that perspective of the impact that it has on women, the use, accessibility, and all sorts of issues. Therefore, really helping universities to change their curriculum and funding that, because ultimately, if we just teach the old management, courses and everything else, we're not going to create change. So, if you are interested, the Institute is also always interested in creating a giving back culture. I think that's what I should have mentioned as a starting point. If you want to be volunteering, helping us with making these changes happen, we have many initiatives where you can get involved. And the last thing I would say is Minerva just walked in. Where is she? She's somewhere.
She's
there she is.
Yes.
So Minerva is also, Elias, she's in the Institute team, and please do reach out to her or myself to either get involved in the executive in residence, to help us with the course curriculum, to be involved with helping the youth think of issues such as gender smart investing and so on. So there's plenty of opportunity to get involved.
Thank you, Shiva. Hristo, I'm going to end with you, and I'm going to ask a very visionary question. Like, where do you see potential for further improvements in this area? And what would you like to see implemented by the end of the, let's call it, InvestEU period, so by end of 2028?
Indeed, thank you for the question. And I failed to mention that, in fact, one of the major outcomes that we had under InvestEU is to have a dedicated pot of money for advisory support linked to gender balance. And we have used it extremely strategically. We started with tackling the problem that, as Shiva said, holistically from infrastructure. For example, we just finished a very interesting assignment with the city of Barcelona, where we helped the local authorities to design their transport network to be more inclusive and safe for women, to take, for example, the subway to a final stop at the late night trip, or to basically help the city of Valencia develop their own social housing projects so that they are more inclusive. So it's not only about investment, it's about creating the whole infrastructure around it and the system. So as Shiva said, it's a complex problem. So we're taking a holistic view. And going forward until the end of the InvestEU period, we plan to tackle this from advisory point of view, to continue to tackle it in that way, holistically, meaning that we're going to work with local authorities to build capacity, to introduce certain measures that they can afterwards result into direct improvement in infrastructure, in the way the cities and municipalities look at the gender issues, but also working with financial institutions to work against gender bias, unconscious bias that may be. So we're talking about capacity building, educating loan officers on the banking level. We're going to take a deeper look. As I said, we start from the project that was define the problem. So the problem was there was not enough financing available to female entrepreneurs. Now we're going to start a few studies that will look a bit more deeper into the project. Deep tech. I think Astrid mentioned, women are as capable as men to invest in semiconductors. So we're going to now launch a study that will look at deep tech financing available to women entrepreneurs. We're going to look at bank financing, and we're going to look at unconscious bias on the financial institutions part. And last but not least, we will launch something that we call Gender Labs. Okay, it's not very imaginative, but it's basically, it is a continuous forum where we want to exchange best practices, to incentivize these best practices, and to disseminate the information. And last but not least, we are also going with direct programs together with EIF, but also with our colleagues from the bank on the EIC fund and the Commission, where we actively try to implement more gender-balanced approach. On the EIC fund, for example, where we provide investment advisory, 19% of all the investee companies that this fund supported, and there are 460 companies right now, are female-led entrepreneurs, so that's a very encouraging sign. And also the team that we built internally features 11 investment managers that are female, and 15 that are male. Okay, still not 50-50, but we're getting closer to there. So we are actively trying to promote that. And going forward, we're going to move to more practical also solutions with on the EIF side, with the EIB. But as you can see, it is a complex process that it takes a lot of different measures. So it cannot be one thing that solves everything.
So we hope that by the third edition of Empowering Equity, we'll have additional measures that we could actually share with all of you. So I would like to conclude now by asking one word or one very short messages from our panelists that you would like to convey to this wonderful audience today.
Okay, one message, hope. I think we're really at the start of a long journey, and I'm really happy that we initiated what Shiva referred to as the snowball effect. I think we really have something going. It's just up to us to keep the momentum, to keep pushing, because in order to really succeed, you need tenacity, persistence, and a long breath, and that I wish for all of us.
Shiva.
Yes, I would say connect, and in particular, look at the audience. Let's aim to have next year half the room filled with also men, because this is not a women issue. This is a societal issue, and we want to really make real change happen. So I would say connect, create that community, and those few brave men who are here help us actually to get, yes. Like John Holloway who just walked in. Yes. Let's have have them multiply, I guess.
Yes. Hristo, it seems that you are under pressure now.
Yeah,
no?
And again, I will reach out actually to my male colleagues and the colleagues in the industry. Exactly, in real time. So you heard the numbers, you've seen the statistics. If you haven't, read the studies that we have prepared. So, creating a more inclusive, gender balanced environment within your funds, within your organizations, it's not just the right thing to do, it's actually the smart thing to do, because it does affect even your bottom line. So even if you want to think about it as a purely rational investment, it is the right thing to do. So please, take it seriously, and maybe next year we're going to have more things to show here.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to our speakers.